So within 3 weeks of this DLC being released, I am already at the point of logging onto the game, flying to the tower, and then switching the game off and going and do something else with my life. Which sucks because I love Destiny, absolutely love Destiny. And this DLC looked to be the King's Fall of Destiny 2, which sadly it kind of still is, because Destiny 2 hasn't been particularly great in comparison to Destiny 1. It's been an incredible game, but just not what we want it to be, let's say. Well, if you don't like it, don't play it. Believe me, I've been trying. I only play it now to make builds and the varying okay to good things within this DLC. Void 3.0 is fantastic. You know, it just gives me a reason to try different things and have a unique experience instead of just using one subclass, one set of exotics, one set of just one setup, and just always playing over and over again. So this is a very good addition to the game, and I cannot wait to see what they do with Arc and Solar, because you know there's a lot more there to experience and to possibly build upon. However, there aren't a dramatic amount of builds you can make with each character. There's probably going to be about 2 builds per character, which is viable in the actual game. Anything else you build is probably just going to be subpar, but maybe fun. But you know, for like viable builds, it's probably only going to be like 2 per class. Weapon crafting, another good addition, but it's definitely still in its baby form. Like, there's only a certain amount of weapons you can actually craft, and most of them aren't even very useful in the meta. It's just you do this if you want to do this, and leveling them up is a bit of a pain. You get 1% per kill. I have 945 enemies killed with this pulse rifle, and I have up to weapon level 12. I believe like 16 or 18 is the max for each weapon. So you can see I've still got to use this weapon for a long time to be able to get percentage and complete this weapon, as to speak, so I can change up the perks. And you know, it's just one of those things where it's a thing that should be over time. It's an endgame experience, that's fine, but it's boring. It's boring as hell. To have to force myself to use these weapons that aren't that great, to be able to just level them up, to put perks on them which aren't superb, you know what I mean? There's very little reward for your time put into this game right now with Witch Queen. I'm going to go into more of it as a solo player anyway. If you've got a team of people, you're running raids and stuff, it's going to be a different experience. Red bordered weapons, for me, I'm not that bothered by this. People are freaking out about how it's clogging up their vault and they don't have enough materials and the material cap should be removed. And I have built pretty much every weapon that I can build right now. And I'm full on everything else, because you don't need to keep this stuff. What you should be doing with red bordered weapons is, if you get them and you're not going to craft anything or recraft anything, just dismantle them. You are not going to run out of red bordered weapons. You're going to get more of them, and they're not that hard to level up. If you use them for like 2 activities, you will get them completed. You don't need to hoard them. It's a ridiculous thing that people are getting crazy about. However, I don't see the points in them right now, because there's just nothing to aim for when it comes to weapon crafting. It's just a thing. It's just an extra thing in the game, which isn't fantastic. This should be like 5 weapons on every page, different RPMs and stuff, and to unlock them shouldn't be as grindy as it is. And I know they've worked on that and they're changing it a little bit. I don't want them to change it too much, because it shouldn't be super easy to get absolutely everything right away. But I mean, I'm trying to think of a weapon. Like, I think these 2 weapons I've been trying to get red borders of for a long time, and I just don't get them at all. A couple of other ones, I've got a lot of them, but it's just like, it's so based on RNG and having to play for 6 hours a day just to get one little thing that doesn't really impact anything. And it's kind of just that fear of missing out type experience when it comes to Destiny now. And they seem to be playing off that and working off that to kind of keep the game going. And, you know, they achieved magnificent things with this DLC, considering they were in lockdown and during the pandemic. You know, that's not something you can just look beyond. You know, for what they had to do in the conditions they had to do it, they've produced a pretty good DLC. But this was supposed to be the King's Fall of Destiny 2, and sadly it probably still is. As I said, like, it's probably still the best DLC we've seen in Destiny 2. So let's talk about being a solo player who specifically doesn't go to find other people, having to Go and find groups of people to play with that you've never played before with, that you know you don't know how they act, what their personality is. Are they racist? Are they this, that, or the other? It's a lot of anxiety and stress for someone who has accessibility needs that just pushes me away from, you know, even bothering to do raids and groups and stuff, because it's not worth me putting my energy into it just for, you know, a potentially bad experience. In-game matchmaking needs to be changed. It needs to be changed. So pinnacles, when you reach a certain level, the only way to chase that power level, which is arbitrary, but you know, it's something to do, is through pinnacles. And there's very few things you can do in this game now as a solo player to get pinnacle weapons. The only consistent way is Vanguard, Gambit, and Crucible, doing the 3 games in each of them. I can do that in 2 hours, and then there's no point in me coming back on for the rest of the week, because there's nothing else for me to chase pinnacles where it's fun and you know, it's worth the grind. And the worst thing is, I did this week, and this is what's put me off the game. All 3 of these rewards, plus a couple of other pinnacles that I did go for, were all chess pieces and all the same power level. So I didn't even gain any progress for the time that I did put in. There needs to be some sort of protection for RNG when it comes to pinnacles. If I open a pinnacle and I get legs, it should be way less chance for me to get legs again that week. Just for that week, I should get a chance of getting something else, because putting in the energy and grinding things that aren't fun and are arduous should reap some sort of reward. It doesn't have to be a guaranteed drop. Like, you know, say everything's 100% and then you get legs can go down to 50% chance on the next pinnacle. It's not that difficult to implement into the game, and you're going to give people a reason to actually play the game, because they're going to feel like they're progressing instead of just feeling demoralized every single time they play the game. Nightfall's still a really good addition to the game, you know, Nightfall specific weapons, chasing materials like enhancement cores and stuff. But however, Legend should be match made. The only thing that should not be match made is anything that's 1580 in this whole DLC and raids. You don't need callouts. You don't need a team of communication to do a Legend Nightfall. People do it solo. Like, you don't need it. Having champion modifiers and mods to actually take them out is not needed. You can kill a lot of these things without even having to have the mod on. And if one person, you, who's queuing into the matchmaking, has those mods, the other 2 don't need them. So it's very, very easy to turn matchmaking on for Legend to help people have more chance of getting things, to have their time rewarded, and then they might want to push on and do other things like dungeons, like raids. Like, for me, there's no reason to not have Legend match made across the board on all activities. There's just no reason. Crucible is horrific right now. There's nothing new, there's nothing different. It's just the same old boring crap where the people who are really good just wreck you every single game, and anyone who's just a casual player has no fun whatsoever. The only game mode that I play is whatever is in this playlist, whether it's Mayhem, Team Scorch, and that's only to get my 3 games done to get my pinnacle. There's no reason for me to play beyond that, because it's not exciting, it's not fun enough, it's not worth me putting the grind in for nothing. Like, there just isn't. 6v6 normal stuff now is horrific. I played 1 game before, and then I've watched other people playing, and invisible hunters and fusion rifles are ruining the whole experience. Like, and Void 3.0 is not that fun in PvP either. It's just a lot of very, very tough experiences when you come up against someone using specific setups. Now, yeah, the meta still has to form, it still has to shape, and they have to make changes, but I know what's going to happen. They're going to change one thing in PvP, which will also change it in PvE, and then things are just going to start getting unbalanced. They need to be able to balance PvE separately from PvP, so that people have to have 2 sets of armors. They have to have 2 different setups, one for PvE, one for PvP. And things like invisible hunters who use fusion rifles needs to be toned down. You shouldn't be going out into this Witch Queen DLC knowing that invisibility is going to be a massive thing for hunters. You develop the game, you know how ridiculous invisibility is going to be in PvP, and then give Xur a god roll fusion rifle on the first week. Like, that to me just seems like you don't care. Like, you just don't care about PvP whatsoever. And you know that, like I said, with FOMO and fear of missing out, and you know, people are just going to pull up with PvP because they're stuck in this cycle of chasing power for nothing, and you know, just wanting to be the best of the best. And if people enjoy that, great, I'm happy for you, but it's just not comfortable for majority of people. And PvP, like, and Trials and Iron Banner, there's 1 or 2 new weapons across the board. There's 2 old maps that have returned, which nobody wanted, and potentially 1 new map. I don't even know if they've added a new map. That's not good enough. That doesn't change enough of the PvP experience for anyone to be like, oh yeah, I want to play PvP now. It's just, it's not good enough. And then we have Gambit. Gambit had crazy overhaul and changes, and everyone was like, this is it. And then on launch of this new Gambit, it was just horrific. Everything about it was just bad. You can't invade without getting Galahorn by 4 people. You can't, you know, change the game. You can't make a comeback because of the way heavy works and stuff, and yet they are changing it and they've mentioned it, but it's just not good enough on release. But you know, people crying about wanting Gambit to be a fun experience, and you'd be like, okay, we're going to make all these changes, we're going to overhaul it, this is what we're going to go, this. We've been working on this for a long time. And then it's just horrible. Like, it's worse than Gambit was before. Like, it's... I don't even know who oversees that. Who looks at all this stuff and be like, this is going to be incredible. And then it's not. Like, they need to have real people go in and playtest it, not the developers. The developers aren't the general day-to-day players. They're just not. You know, they're casual at best because they're working so hard. People who, you know, they aim for with these changes are people who are just above casual to hardcore. Like, that's what they aim for. And I don't see even casuals enjoying this experience. Like, I just don't. It's not great. It's just not great. And where did the other pinnacles lie? Okay, let's go to the helm. I can't remember if this is a pinnacle. It very may well be once you do the bounty. I just can't remember. And that's fine if it is. If it's not, if it's powerful gear, that's not good enough. Then we have the Psyops Battlegrounds. Lengthy missions that you go through, and you have to do them 6 times for, you know, the completion of that week, and not a single time is it a pinnacle reward. So if you are, you know, what level you're at now, if you're at the cap, there's no point in playing this new thing that they've put in. There just isn't. It's ridiculous. Things that they put into the game of a brand new experience should be pinnacle regardless. They just should. Even if they were to take that runic chest open down to 5 and make it just 1 reward, a pinnacle, great. I'd be happy with that. I think most people would be happy with that, you know, or at least when you hit a certain level, when you hit the cap, then that changes for you from powerful to pinnacle. And then everyone else who's under cap can still have powerful gear. Like, for me, there's just no reason to let people get pinnacles as a solo player easier, because it's just ridiculous. Like, it really is. Days of Eternity, for some reason, still has a pinnacle gear at the 250,000 marker. And this, unless you do find a fire team, you know, because Legend is not match made for no apparent reason, there's no reason this shouldn't be match made. So you have to go into normal, find 5 people who are competent and aware enough to go for the 250,000 and don't just skip through little ads. And hope to God that you get the RNG to have the extra rounds pop up at the end of a run. So potentially you could go in here, do 15 runs of Days of Eternity, and then only get 1 extra rounds experience, and then you might not even get the 250,000 points. So you know, you're putting all this time and energy into an experience and not getting any feasible rewards. Like, that to me is just, it's just unacceptable. They need matchmaking to be better and more apparent on, like, Legend. Like, there's no reason not to. There's no reason not to. Finch's Challenge, powerful gear reward, reputation gained. This takes ages. You could run, I think, 12 Wellsprings and still not get 100% on this. If that is the length of time you have to farm for it, the reward should match it. It should be pinnacle. You know, it's a new area, it's a new experience, it's a new vendor. There's no reason this should not be a pinnacle reward. Then we have weekly missions, a chunk, massive chunk of content, a huge long mission. Doesn't count towards the pinnacle reward. You have to get 100,000 score or better. Doing it on hero, you're probably going to get about 80 to 90,000 on a casual run with people who aren't trying to achieve the 100,000. In a lot of the missions, you're not even going to be able to it's not even possible for you to get 100,000 on hero because of the length of time it takes versus the amount of enemies that are in versus your multiplier. You are not going to get 100,000 on hero. And then legend, matchmaking off. Why is the matchmaking off? Champion mods aren't needed in this game to kill a champion, and if one of you are match made into a team of 2 and one of you has those mods, that's all you need. You don't need communication for these endgame activities. Like, just allow legend to be match made. There's no reason not to. And then we have Wellspring, the bane of my existence. Yeah, this is good for grinding weapons apparently and patterns, which just never happens. Like, the RNG in that alone is ridiculous. The event and experience itself, or the activity, is not that fun. It's not that fun. It really isn't. You know, there's a lot of other things that have come, like battlegrounds and stuff like that, which have been fun. This is not fun for me anyway. It is what it is, and I will grind it to get the weapons and the red bordered weapons. However, why is the Pinnacle gear locked behind complete runs of Wellspring on higher difficulties? There's only one higher difficulty, and it's Master 1580. Yes, this probably shouldn't have matchmaking, that's fine, but why is there not a legendary option here with matchmaking that's a little bit harder? You know, you could make it 1560. Most people are 1550. Make it 1560. Give it the Pinnacle reward. Matchmake it so that people have a chance of playing the endgame activities that you have introduced at higher difficulties and get rewarded for your time without having to go sit on looking for groups where it's like, must have 17 Galahorns, must have played 8,000 raids to run Wellspring. Like, it's a joke. It's a joke as a solo player to try and level up in this game and find meaning in that. I'm not ever going to run a raid on this raid because I'm not willing to put the time and effort and grind in, having to kill myself to find pinnacles to get my power high enough to then have to go and find 5 random people that I've never spoken to before, that I don't trust, who are probably going to quit and rage when, you know, things go badly in the raid. And then you have to sit and wait for another 30 minutes until you get more people. It's not worth the time or the energy. If I could fly through the pinnacles, not fly through them, but have a more consistent build in my pinnacles by having more accessible options to them and having RNG gated, so that once I do get a set of boots, I don't get 5 more sets of boots at the same power level, then I'm going to be at a serious amount of power where I can team up with other people and I don't have to worry as much because my power is higher. Like, it's just, the desire to play this game wanes every DLC, and it will get to the point where I just don't play the game anymore. But this DLC has every potential to be the best all-around DLC, but right now it's just potential that's not being fulfilled in my eyes. And, you know, there's a lot of people who are like, yeah, this is the best DLC, but I think it's just got to the point now where people have been so starved of content that anything that's thrown in front of them is absolutely unbelievable and incredible. 3 weeks into a DLC anybody shouldn't be like, yeah, I've been in the tower for 5 minutes, I'm just going to log off. That should never be the case for anyone across the board 3 weeks into a DLC of this caliber. It's crazy. There are 2 other pinnacles that you can get as well. This one for the Dead Messenger on Master. All you have to do is kill a certain amount of powerful Cabal. That's fine. You know, you will get there if you just grind it and farm it and try to complete the mission. It gives me a reason to try and complete the mission. I haven't because it's hard. And then there's this one here, which I believe is also Pinnacle Preservation. That's a pretty cool, you know, it's a pretty cool lengthy mission. That's fun and unique, and it takes you into the raid. And it's a Pinnacle reward. Why isn't everything that way inclined when it comes to rewards on this DLC? You know, something new, something unique, something different. There's a reason to play it, and I also get rewarded for my time put into it. But everything else is just the same thing we've always seen for very little reward, even less rewards or potential rewards than previous DLCs. Like, give me a reason to play. Give me a reason to want to move on and do the raid. Give me a reason, because there's nothing right now. That's just my opinion anyway. Let me know what you're thinking about Witch Queen. I'm still going to play it. I'm still going to stream it every Tuesday to do the Saladin mission. I might do something like Iron Banner streams, maybe potentially a trial stream eventually. But the desire But this game for me right now is just dead in the water, and I don't think I'm to blame for that. You know, maybe I've grown out of the game a little bit, but I don't think this DLC is good enough. Let me know what you think. Thank you for watching. I've been easynow. You guys have been awesome.